Well, I was gone for the holidays, Christmas time, took a little vacation with the family, so I missed the news cycle to address it with you, which is near and dear to my heart, and that is the topic of immigration, both legal and illegal. You see, immigration does not suddenly become magical and wonderful just because some scumbag politician or his CEO benefactor decides to make it legal. Mass importation of people from across the planet has watered down and broken this country, and that's just the way that is. Anyway, I want to hear what Auron MacIntyre has to say about it since I never addressed it with you. Joining me now, my friend, author of the book, The Total State, Auron MacIntyre. All right, Auron, apparently the strain of the love of immigration from all over the planet still runs pretty strong in the GOP. Sadly, I don't know that that's going to change anytime soon.
Well, the good news is we're seeing a shift in the discussion, right? Before, it was illegal immigration, and no one was willing to tackle the problem. Now, Trump has won with a mandate on illegal immigration and ending it, and so that doesn't even seem to be up for discussion anymore. I hope he follows through. I hope he makes good on all of those promises. But now we've shifted to a much more difficult topic, which is legal immigration. And some of the people who joined the Republican coalition, like Elon Musk, while they favored crackdowns on illegal immigration, used the H1B Visa program to bring in a large amount of tech workers at low pay in order to run his companies. And he's far from the only CEO to abuse the policy in that way. And so they want to continue to have that option open, even though they're for ending the illegal immigration that the rest of the Trump coalition opposed. But that's not what Trump voters wanted. They wanted a reduction of immigration across the board, both illegal and legal. They don't see any reason why good middle-class jobs should be given to people who aren't in this country, while there are plenty of Americans who want this. The whole thing we always heard about immigration is these are jobs Americans won't do. Well, guess what? These are jobs that Americans want to do. But instead, these people are looking to hire outside the United States to keep wages low.
Auron, why is this not something that was always the case in the United States of America? And I'm aware we have always had legal immigration of some kind, but why do we have to fight against this now, even within our own party, when we didn't have to do this as much back in the day? Is it a lack of patriotism? Is America just a profit loss sheet now? I don't understand.
Well, Elon Musk likened America to a sports team, but the problem with the sports team analogy is most people hate this aspect of sports now, right? That it's so mercenary, that the teams and the players are in no way loyal to the people that actually support them. That's not a great model for my country. I don't want a government that sees me as some kind of interchangeable widget that they can bring in and bring out whenever they find someone else who plays the position better. We want a government that cares about the people of the United States. But so many in the Republican Party have bought into the idea that we have to have immigrants to make the economy run, that we are a nation of immigrants. No, we are a nation of Americans. And those who would like to come and become part of that have been given the opportunity graciously by the American people from time to time. But that doesn't mean that there's some blanket open door policy where anyone who happens to be slightly better at computer programming and does it a little bit cheaper can come in and make sure that they get the American dream instead of the people who actually live here.
Okay, let's go across the pond for a few and talk about the UK. Now, anyone who's been paying attention, people like you, people who watch your show, that they've been aware of the Muslim rape gangs in the UK for quite some time, but most normies and normas have found this out in about the last 15 minutes. So doing the best you can, would you explain how in the world a bunch of barbarians got into the UK and began mass raping British girls?
Yeah, the sad news is, like you said, this has been going on for well over a decade. The UK government was aware that large grooming gangs were operating inside the country, mostly made up of Pakistani Muslim immigrants. And because of the immigrant community that was central to this operation, they turned a blind eye. Police regularly ignored what was going on. Sometimes they would arrest the girls who were being abused and not the abusers themselves. And the excuse was always multiculturalism. We don't want to expose this community to racism and hatred. If people found out what was actually happening, then they might be angry at Muslims and not want them in their country. Well, Elon Musk has, to his credit now, on the other side of this, has been tweeting repeatedly about this after new evidence came out, after someone who was at a trial. They actually read out the transcript of what was done during this, and it was so gross, so horrific that it outraged Musk, and he started sharing this far and wide. And so now, like you said, the average person is suddenly discovering this, and this is why there were riots in the UK after a knife attack from an immigrant, because this is a long history of abuses. It didn't just start with that one attack. There have been a long history of abuses by the British government of its people, of its citizens, under the name of multiculturalism, and they are fed up with it, and that's why there's all this heat all of a sudden.
Do you see any similarities between what's happening there and what's happening here?
Oh, of course. We know that in the United States, after the BLM riots, we got what we call the Ferguson effect, right? Black communities were less policed because so many people in the United States were terrified of being called racist. Nobody wanted to be the next Derek Chauvin. Nobody wanted to have their career railroaded because they arrested the wrong guy or got caught on video, being rough with a suspect. And so these neighborhoods simply were not policed. And what we saw was that crime went up. Traffic accidents went up. More Black people actually died because of the BLM movement, because we were unwilling to police a community because it might be racist, because it might look bad on television. And of course, that is what the UK is experiencing. They refused to police a community. They refused to expose what was happening in that community because they were too scared of the racial backlash. And so they simply allowed the mass rape of young British women for over a decade and just continued to do nothing in the face of the obvious evidence that was going on.
Auron, I've got a problem with how we do presidential transitions now. Obviously, it hasn't been a problem in the past, but of course we have one very weak, very stupid party, that would be the GOP, and one party completely evil trying to burn the country down. And they've put their foot on the gas during this transition period between the election and when Donald Trump actually gets sworn in. Do we need to shrink that period of time? How in the world can we survive when we have 3 months of just no brakes, all gas, burn it all?
Yeah, I actually tried to explain this scenario to a British friend of mine, and he thought that it was absolutely insane. Like, you mean you win an election, but you're not in power, and the guy who lost gets to do whatever he wants, consequence-free for months. And it's particularly annoying because transitioning from who? We know that Joe Biden is not in charge of the White House. So who's actually transferring power to Donald Trump in this entire process? We don't actually know. And in the meantime, like you said, they're burning down the country as fast as they can.
Auron, thank you, my brother. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
I would thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, but I know how brilliant it is, and I know you love it here. So subscribe and watch. We're going to start really ramping things up and putting some funny stuff, some interesting stuff out there, some collaborations. Either way, my YouTube channel is officially the place to be. So stick around.